John was like, oh, your parents are going to call. Like, let's talk to them. And I'm like, okay. So my parents FaceTimed us, and my husband and my parents had an intervention with me.
That is so funny.
And told me that I needed to quit my job.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Screw It, Let's Do This podcast, a podcast where we interview entrepreneurs about their stories. I'm your host, Therese.
And I'm your host, Shelby.
And today we have Megan from Thistle Elm. Woo! And you guys were really pumped today because Megan's one of our good friends. I mean, I've known Megan technically since college, but we didn't really know each other until after college.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went to the same college. Megan moved to Madison. I'm kind of just telling her story on how we met her, but she moved to Madison, was it 3 years ago?
Summer of 2021. So
Okay.
almost, yeah.
All right. You moved here. Actually, I know too much of your story, so I'm going to stop saying it and I'm going to bump it over to you. I was going to say, oh, well, she was an accountant and then she left.
We know too much, so
Honestly,
I want you to
guys
take
can
the
tell it
reins.
if you want.
No. This is for you to do.
Started at Whitewater. She got a degree in accounting.
I'll just jump in, like, if there's any fills I needed.
No.
I seriously, but you did go to school for accounting.
Yeah, I
at
did.
Whitewater.
Yeah.
So Megan, before we get too deep into your origin story, the story that Shelby and I are going to tell for everyone. Before we get too deep into your origin story, can you tell us what Thistle Elm is?
Yes, Thistle Elm is a women's clothing boutique. We started as an online-only boutique focusing on strictly clothing, as in tops and bottoms, but now we've expanded into accessories and gift items with the addition of our brick-and-mortar storefront.
When did Thistle Elm start?
Thistle Elm started in October of 2019, right before the panini, as Therese calls it. And then our brick and mortar storefront just opened 3 weeks ago in November of 2023.
Oh gosh, and how's it going? That's intense.
It's great. I love it so much. It's been something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. So it feels really fulfilling and kind of like a pinch me moment every time I walk in here to open the store. I just love being here. So yeah, it's great.
She will be hiring soon.
Oh, she will. She will.
I want to go all the way
Yeah,
back.
let's rewind. If this is
Where
a
are
VHS
you from?
player,
How'd you end up in Madison? Where are you from? So where were you
start
born?
like baby Megan?
Baby?
Yes. Popped out
Okay.
the
Where'd you
womb
come out?
in neutrals.
Okay. Well, I was, yeah, of course in neutrals. Well, I was born in Freeport, Illinois, but grew up in Forreston, Illinois, which is just a small farm town, northwestern Illinois.
And you have cows on your...
So my dad does have cows. They don't live at my parents' house. They're elsewhere, but just a short little drive away.
Are these milking cows?
No, they are beef cattle.
Oh.
Yes.
Do you name them?
Okay.
No.
You don't ever name
No.
a beef cow.
It's not a good idea.
Just wonder.
My sister did name them at one point. It was not a good idea.
It's just a tough road.
Yeah.
Not
better
that I
not.
know.
It's-
But.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I grew up in Forreston, spent my whole life there until I graduated high school and went to Whitewater, go Warhawks. And I studied accounting and finance while I was there. I graduated did we graduate in 2018, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, 2018
Unless
I graduated.
you were 3.5 years.
No, I was 4. So the reason I went to Whitewater is because to get your CPA license, you need, I won't bore you with too many details, but you need 150 credits instead of 120. And at Whitewater, I could get my double major done in 4, but the other school I was looking at, it was going to take 5. So the, math logical in me was like,
That makes sense.
cheaper, better,
Yeah.
done,
Mhm.
sold. Also, I loved Wisconsin, so that helped too.
Mhm.
But so I graduated in 2018 and I moved down near St. Louis because my husband, John, who I met in high school, he was studying in dental school down near St. Louis. And so when I graduated, I moved down there. We got married and I lived down there for 3 years. And that's when I started Thistle Elm, when I was living down there. So I was working in the public accounting industry and I started Thistle Elm. So
What sparked Thistle Elm? What were you like, yeah, this is what I need to do?
I always loved clothes and shopping. Like, that's not a secret. If I had any disposable income, it was going to clothes, like always. That's just what I did. And so I always talked about with my friends, I'm like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be so fun if we owned a boutique together? It was kind of like our, like, when work was hard and like you were complaining about things, like we always kind of like chatted about things like that. Like it was just a dream, not like anything I ever thought was really going to happen. And so I was having dinner with John one night and we were having one of our talks about life and things like that. And he asked me if I could do anything, what I would do. And I said I would own a boutique, but that was crazy because I am an accountant. And he said, why not?
Get John in the room.
I love John
Round
so
of applause.
much.
Round
I
of
love
applause.
John.
John will probably get brought up a lot because he's a
As he should.
pivotal part of Thistle Elm that I think people don't realize, but he definitely is. So it was literally John's idea. He's like, start it online, do it as a hobby. You need separation from work. Anyway, I wasn't setting very good boundaries at work. I was working a lot. And so he's like, that will be a good outlet for you anyway, and you'll love it. Like, and if you don't like it, then you stop it. He's like, why not now? And I'm like, well, I feel like I would want to be more ready. I'd want to have a better vision. I would want to know what my plan is, like my 10-year plan, my 20-year plan. Like, what am I going to do with this? And he's like, okay, but if you don't start now, you're going to be 5 years down the road wishing you started now. So
Who is right?
he started the thoughts were running, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do this. Like, maybe this would be something that would be fun to do. So summer of 2019, I was doing all the things that a good accountant would do. I was getting my EIN and filing my LLC and getting everything all in a row before I even thought about doing something like this. And then I launched in the fall of 2019.
Wow.
I just went for it. Screw it, let's do this.
Oh, hey.
How did you launch? What were like, because I would have no idea how to start a clothing boutique. Like make a website. What were the first things that you did?
Yeah. So through my research, I found like a couple, this was pre-TikTok. If I was doing it now, TikTok has some really great, if you're looking to start an online boutique, TikTok has some great like accounts that you can follow that they have like guides and master classes and things that will help you do that. So that would have been really helpful then. And I'd recommend doing that if that's something you're working towards now. But there was a girl on YouTube who had an online boutique who would give like some tips here and there. And that's how I found out like some of the wholesalers that I could use and where those like platforms were online to like get that access once I had my seller's permit. And then I did some research on like what web platform I wanted to use. At the same time, one of my coworkers in the accounting industry, she had her own small business. She owns a raw dog food business. Shout out Cherry Valley Holistics. If you feed your dogs raw food, you should check them out. So she was really pivotal during that time too. Like I was asking her questions about like what kind of entity type I should like set up as. And she introduced me to the SBDC, which anyone who's a small business owner probably knows who they are. So they were really pivotal in helping me set up all my licenses and things like that ahead of the game. So yeah, once I had all of the legal stuff in order, I started picking out styles, which was really hard to do because one, there's so many options out there. Two, I knew some brands from being a loyal boutique shopper myself. So that helped. Like brands that I knew, like I reached for at boutiques a lot. But there were so many things to pick from. I didn't have a niche settled down on yet. So I was trying to pick, with a limited budget, like what I wanted to invest in for my first collection. So I spent a lot of time picking those styles. And then when they came in, John took photos and I started working on building out the website.
I feel like we're so different. We did not get our ducks in a row. We just started.
No, honestly though, the first thing I did do was file for a sole proprietorship and open a business bank account. But then I quickly found out as a food business, you don't want to be a sole proprietor. Like,
I think that's common in entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right?
Yeah.
So
it's all right.
Yeah, but the accounting thing, that
it has been really helpful.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
That has been probably the most difficult, like the biggest thing that I feel like has screwed me over now, like 4 years into the business. I'm like, if only 3 years ago I'd done this a little bit better. But I, at the time was doing things the best you can. Anyway, so tell us about like the name Thistle Elm and like, did you always know you do neutrals? Like, were you always a neutral person?
So I'll start with the name. Thistle Elm came from, I knew I wanted to pick something that symbolized growth for me because I'm very much a stick to the plan kind of girl. So I decided in high school that I was going to study in accounting and I was going to be a CPA and that's what I was going to do. So this was like very off plan, not something I would have pictured myself doing, especially at that age. I was 20? Oh gosh, how old am I now? 4 years ago? 23. I was 23. And so I wanted it to symbolize growth. And the first thing that came to mind for me with growth is plants. And so I kind of played around with plant names for a little while. I wasn't liking anything. Like things just, it didn't sound right. And then all of a sudden, like I put the two together and it clicked.
Yeah. Wait, a thistle. What is a thistle?
A thistle is actually, it's a weed.
Oh,
that
grows
that's
like the weed.
Pointy, dangerous, fierce.
Like my dad pulls thistles out of his pasture. Like he does not want them there, which is funny. He's probably like, why in the world did she pick thistle as a part of her name? But maybe that's why it felt right? Like it just kind of felt homey. It felt right. And so, yeah, I just put them together. And I remember texting John. I'm like, I just named my business. Like, I know that this is what it is. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Is an elm a tree?
Yeah.
Okay, if that's an obvious, cut that out. But
I'm going to be honest. I was going to ask what an elm was too.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
so an elm is totally a tree. That makes sense with the thistle and elm.
Exactly. Yep. So
Okay,
that's
and
where
then
that
the
came
neutral
from.
thing.
Yeah.
And then the neutrals. No, we weren't always neutral only. Like I said, when I started my first collection, I really had no direction. I knew I liked boutique clothing and I knew I liked things that were like kind of trendy and like current. But I had no direction that first probably year and a half. I really didn't have any sort of like niche that I was falling into. And I feel like we're jumping around a little bit here, but when I moved to Madison and took the business full time, I knew if it was going to be my career that I really needed to figure out what I wanted to do with it and what was going to be our niche and our thing. Because the market is super saturated. I love that because I still love shopping boutiques and I think there's so much value in shopping different boutiques and they all have different things to offer. But I just wanted to make sure we had something that was specifically ours. And so I always kind of leaned towards neutrals. Our collections were really full of neutrals already. They weren't strictly neutral, but that was something that already was kind of common. And also there's so many benefits to neutrals. I think that it creates a lot more like effortless styling. So if fashion doesn't come super naturally to you, it's something that is you can put lots of things in your closet together and make outfits more easily. So if it's something that you want to be good at, but maybe doesn't come super naturally to you, filling your closet with neutrals makes it easier. And it also helps transition from season to season. So I love color. Like I love to add a little pop of color here and there. You don't see me very often. Christmas, lots of reds and lots of greens. Yep. But, spring is known for pastels. Falls, you're going to be your more like moody, like emerald greens and your burgundies. And that's all great. But then kind of like locks those pieces into a certain season where if you get a neutral piece, you can maybe wear it for more seasons then.
What do you think about white pants?
White pants. You can wear white pants whenever you want. And
drop that mic.
I know. I will say I lean more towards like a cream in the winter. Like I just really, I don't know. Something about a white pant does feel very like spring, summer to me, but like you wear what you want when you want to wear it. I don't believe in the rules.
Okay.
Yep.
She's
I know. I know. I said it. This is going to be like this is going to be like the cover. Thistle Elm says you can wear white pants whenever you want.
Comment below if you disagree or if you agree.
Yeah.
I actually have a question that
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to be hard for you to answer. What's a trend that you see that you don't like?
Oh my gosh, I see tons of trends that I don't like. One of the trends right now that I really don't like is, have you seen like there's those sweaters and dresses or whatever that have like animals on them, like zebras, like they're full of just like full
You're never going to find me wearing
zebras and things. I just like, that's not my thing.
So if I got you that for Christmas,
I'd wear it because I love you.
Would you? Or would you be like, Shelby?
Oh, I would absolutely never tell you that I didn't like it. No, no, never.
I know you would.
No, I would keep it.
That'd be for your daughter.
Yeah, it would be a token that I'd hand on to somebody else.
Cute. Oh my gosh. That's funny.
So no, there's lots of trends that I see that I don't like. It's also funny because I see trends like way before everyone else does because our vendors are putting out collections seasons and seasons ahead. Like right now, spring is out, like which is very hard to shop when it's snowing outside, but spring is out. And so you'll see things and you're like, oh my gosh, like every single vendor has this or that. Like that's going to be a thing this season.
I really want to go to a vendor show with you.
They're fun.
One day.
Yeah. They're really fun.
So tell us about that. So how do you pick out your clothes? You always go to Chicago.
Yeah, I really want to go to Dallas. I say every year I'm going to go to Dallas and then I get busy and I don't make it happen.
Nope. 2024, it's happening.
There, you said it. It's happening. Now everybody knows.
No, John is going to make sure it happens. I'll follow up with him.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, if he makes it happen, it'll happen. But there are apparel shows across the country, Dallas, Atlanta, Vegas, Chicago, New York, lots of different places. I always go to Chicago just because it's the most convenient. So they have it like 4 or 5 times a year. So me and my friend Maddie, who owns a boutique in Freeport, we ride in together and shop the collections. We're usually just there for a day, but it's a 3-day market. And you can shop collections. Usually they have current stuff, but they'll usually also have a season ahead. So it's really nice to be able to see things in advance. You can kind of plan out your collections really far in advance so that you're not spending, every other week searching for new styles. I like to have like a backlog of things coming in so that when things get busy, I know next month this, and this is already coming in. So.
And these are actual vendors you buy from or just like inspiration?
No, yeah, actual vendors that you buy from. So you can place orders at market, or they can give you line sheets and access to their website platforms, and you can shop with them that way too. So
wow, is it free to go to these things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and they do all these like little happy hours and snacks and cocktails and all kinds of things. So everyone's like
dressed really cute.
Usually, yes, yeah. There's all these like photo ops. It's a whole.
I'd roll up in my
whole thing.
Joggers and sweatshirt.
Oh my gosh, they'd be like
cookie dough on me. They'd be like, I know they would not know. They'd be like, so think.
What's your boutique called? Oh,
Mickey's Bakes.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So those are super fun. It's a great way to get inspiration. It's really good to get me set up for the next season, but also I've gone before I met Maddie. I used to go I brought my friend Lana once. I went by myself a few times. One time I wasn't even planning on going. It was January, but I was just feeling so uninspired for like the next season. And so I just drove in for the day, and it helps so much because I can be looking at the same styles online and in person, but being able to like feel them, touch them, actually see like the color, all kinds of things like that. It just brings a lot of inspiration that way too. So there's a lot of value in going to market, but you have to go in with a budget and with a plan, or it's very easy because there's so many good things to look at that it's easy to get overwhelmed.
I have never thought about it until right now, like how much you have to spend just to buy like clothes, like to have the things here.
It's an investment. I think that not a lot of people think about that aspect, but every single piece in here is an investment.
I would not have thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like we could, and maybe we'll have time as we keep going to like ask a bazillion questions on how you run it today, because it is really interesting. But I do want to jump back to when you were in your accounting job and when you started as a hobby. Can we continue down that? Like you had it as a hobby, you're selling things just online. Mm-hmm. You're doing Instagram lives.
Yes.
keep going from there.
Yes. So at the first, I guess, year of Thistle Elm, I was working at full-time on the side of my public accounting career. I was a tax consultant, and so I traveled a lot for my job. And so I would spend time like in the airports or whatever, like any free time I had, I would work on Thistle Elm, whether it was designing graphics in Canva or picking out new styles or writing captions. I was spending like every free minute that I had, which wasn't very many, but any second I had on Thistle Elm. So we were mainly using Instagram and Facebook at that point for our selling platforms. Again, TikTok hadn't quite hit that first like little bit of Thistle Elm. And I was using Instagram Lives, which starting in the spring of 2020 became really big because with the pandemic, people were spending so much time alone that people like really loved the lives, which I thought was
I loved
funny.
The lives.
Therese would join in the lives.
I loved Instagram Live during that time.
Oh, yeah. Well, Megan's hit different because like I remember logging on it for like 13 seconds and you're like, Therese from Chicken Foods, hey! And I was like, I am in this. Then I would like try to go on all your lives. My phone would be at like 4%. I'd be like, I'm here, but I might have to drop off. Like, even though you probably didn't care at all, but I was like,
oh no, I loved it. I tried to say hi to every person that jumped on one because genuinely it meant the world to me. Like, you're supporting my business. And then two, like, it was just such a lonely time for everybody. Like, I don't know. It was just so nice. It was like a sense of community. So I would try on styles that we had like recently released or like show how to style them. And then it was just me. So between like outfit changes, I'd like ask them questions. Like I'd be like,
what'd you do today, guys? I'm
like,
off to the side.
What show are you guys binging right now? And then I'd come back and like read all the answers. It was so funny, but yeah, it was a good time. So yeah, I was using pretty much social media to drive sales to the online website. I also I also offered delivery to my like hometown in Illinois. So anytime John and I would like go back to see my parents or his parents, I would offer like local delivery for people so they didn't have to ship stuff, which was super nice, but also was like very difficult as far as like
coordinating,
interrupting time with my family to go like deliver all of these packages and orders. But I had such a strong following from that area because that's where my friends and acquaintances were from, that like that was the way that I served them in that time too. So yeah, those were kind of our main drivers until I left my public accounting job in September of 2020, which is wild.
Wait, can we talk about the decision?
Yeah,
like how
I
you
wanna know
got to
how
that
you-
decision? Because
Yeah.
that's like the hardest, I feel like.
Yeah. So for some background, I got my first internship in public accounting the summer after my freshman year in college. I worked there for the summer, and then they let me work remotely from school. So I pretty much started summer of freshman year and worked either remotely or in office, depending on breaks, until I graduated. And then accepted a full-time offer with that same company and been working there for a couple years. Like I said, I was a tax consultant, so I traveled a lot during the summer, and then obviously tax busy season in the spring. I was just kind of burnt out. Like I said, I take most of the responsibility because I did a really bad job at setting boundaries for myself. Like I didn't set myself up for success at all whatsoever.
Well, they started you so young, freshman year of college. Like, how can you even?
Well, yeah. And we worked in a really small team, and I genuinely loved the people that I worked with. So that kind of creates that, like, I want to help you. I want to be doing a good job because I really like the people I work with. So I just really didn't do a good job of setting boundaries for myself. And I was really experiencing burnout. Hence the reason John said I needed an outlet and all of these things. And so I had been talking about, needing a change for a few months, but things kind of came to a head towards like August, September. And my parents FaceTimed me. John was like, "Oh, your parents are going to call. Like, let's talk to them." And I'm like, "Okay." So my parents FaceTimed us, and my husband and my parents had an intervention with me.
That is so funny.
And told
I
me
don't
that
think
I needed to quit my job.
And because they thought you weren't being yourself? Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
They basically said, like, it's time. Like, you're not doing well. Like, this is affecting every aspect of your life. Like, I don't see you like making the changes and being able to like set those boundaries now when you've, like established yourself in this career so far. Like, I think you need a fresh start with something. And
So both your parents were like, "Do it, quit."
Yeah.
They were super
Wow.
Yes. I can't remember what night of the week that was, but it literally the exact same week that Friday, I called my boss and I said, I'm done,
supportive.
which is the weirdest thing in the world because I had no other job lined up. And I think that's the first time I've publicly like admitted that. I had nothing planned. And for reference, John's in dental school. Like I am the sole income provider for our household at that point, and I didn't have a backup plan. But my parents and John were like, "No, we're not waiting. Like, you're done now." So I was like, okay. So I was applying for other jobs, and I found the perfect job, like truly a blessing, was placed right in my lap. This part-time accounting job with a small accounting firm that was like 30 minutes from where we lived in Alton, Illinois. It was in Columbia, Illinois. It was perfect. These people were the sweetest humans. I learned so much. They did like bookkeeping and tax services for small businesses. So I learned a lot about like how I keep my own books from working there. And then just in general, the people that owned it were just like the sweetest people. So it actually allowed me to learn a different like aspect of accounting that is super applicable today while also working part-time so I could put more energy into Thistle and Elm. So it was kind of like this little transition piece between public accounting and taking Thistle and Elm full time. So I worked there until John graduated. And then when John graduated, he said, "This is it. Like, if you're going to take this full time, like this is the time because you're going to have to find a different job either way when we move to Madison. So take a year, see if you can do it. And if you want to do it, and we'll go from there." So that's when I took the leap.
So you left that job and then you knew that you were just doing this.
Yeah, well, John had gotten a job up here, so I knew I had to leave that job to move up here. So when we moved, I just didn't find another job. I just took this one home full time.
Wait, when did we talk on the phone? What
That
job?
was when I left the big corporate job.
Okay.
Yes. I reached out to Therese when I left my like public accounting job because I was like, what the heck did I just do? Even with all that validation from John and my parents, it just was like very off plan, very like felt
Scary,
spur of the moment,
yeah.
even though it wasn't. It was very scary. I didn't have a backup plan. Like I was really nervous, and I had just like listened to Therese talk about how she left her corporate job. And I was like, I need to talk to somebody who's done this. Like I have a ton of support behind me and I'm so grateful, like was so grateful for that and still am, but I needed to talk to somebody who had genuinely been in my shoes. So I reached out to Therese, which is very unlike me. If you know me, I'm kind of introverted. So I like sent her a little DM.
Hey, girl.
And this girl responds and says, I'll FaceTime you tomorrow night. And I'm like,
Oh no.
FaceTime? I thought we would just like DM.
I know. I mean, honestly,
No.
Honestly, what was going through my mind was like, had been living alone for like a year and I was going through it too. So I was like, potential friend.
It was perfect. I needed it. And I loved the like face-to-face conversation. But the introvert in me was like, what did you just do? Oh my gosh. Now you have to FaceTime this girl. No, but we talked for probably like 45 minutes. And she like was super reassuring, was like, hey, like it's going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. Like all this stuff.
And I told you to wait. Did I tell you to waitress at that point?
That was when I moved up here. So then after we moved up here and I took Thistle Elm full time, I reached out to Therese again. And because I had told her I would be moving to Madison. And I was like, hey, like I'm here. Let's get coffee. So we did. And Therese, I was like, okay, well, I just took Thistle Elm full time. And that first like month that I took it full time, I was like, I have to like create this job for myself. Like there's no roadmap here. And I have to figure out like, I have things to do, but like I have to figure out how I'm going to structure my day to get things done. If that makes sense. Like there was nobody telling me a timeline for when I needed to like run this campaign or do this giveaway or do whatever. And I was like, I feel like I have to create my job. And it was such a weird feeling coming from such structure. I was a little like thrown. I didn't really know what to do with myself.
Yes.
So I would say like that was probably the hardest part of my career was that first like month or two creating my job for myself.
I agree.
I totally agree. I see this happen all the time with any people that like leave their job, even if they're not going to be an entrepreneur, but just leave to like do something different. It's like they have a weird 2 months where they're like, they do things out of character. They feel a certain way. Or like for me, it was like all my old emotions that I didn't realize I had from years ago were like flowing through me. I was like going through issues that I thought I had solved like years ago because I finally had like the time. And then people would ask me like, so what do you do all day? And I'd be like, well, I would feel like defensive because I'd be like, well, what am I? I could do anything. I'm like, but you almost do like create like you could at that point create your dream life, but then you're like, well, what is my dream life? And what is my routine?
Yep.
When you have unlimited time, how do you fill it in a productive way?
Yeah. So that was probably struggle. Like the hardest time for me. I still have times like that where, you know, I have a free chunk of the day and I'm like, okay, how do I effectively use this? Do I need to rest? Do I need to work out? Do I need to like make something on Canva? Do I need to organize a new collection? Like, what do I need to do? But that time was just like, it felt like all that. Like those 2 months just felt like, what am I doing? So yeah, that was kind of hard. And so we had chatted about like what to do to one kind of like feel like I was fitting into the community because we were brand new here. We didn't know anyone. John and I didn't know anyone here. We have some family that lives around here, but they have kids and they have their own lives. Like they're busy too. And so I was trying to figure out like how to fit into the community and also like how to create my job. And so Therese was talking about how she waitressed at a country club here in Middleton and how it was really good for her to like meet people, make connections, and also just like kind of just something different than her job. And so I started doing that once or twice a week, which was good for getting out of the house.
Exactly. It's just good where like if you have literally unlimited time when you don't have anything you have to do, you kind of feel a little bit like, but if you're like, oh, I have to get to work at 4, that means I have to do other things today. I did the same thing. It was 2 to 3 days a week at the country club. Anyway, so
and it was also good because it was good for me to recognize like all of a sudden I like couldn't fit the country club in anymore. Like I was so busy with work that it truly was taking away from like my time at the store. And so I think that was a good like measuring stick for me to be like, wow, like you've over the last year, like you used to be able to fit in 3 shifts a week. Now you can't fit any. Like, look what you've done between then and now. Because sometimes it's hard to look back and see like where you come from, right? Like it's so hard to see like, I feel like I'm in the same spot I was like 2.5 years ago. I'm doing the same thing, like blah, blah, blah. But so it's kind of, that was a good like little measuring stick for me to be like, oh my gosh, like we're a little bit different than we were back then. Like you're busier, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, wait, can I say one last thing about the waitressing thing? Because we talked about this in a different episode, like with Laura Beneblens. She was like an Lyft driver, DoorDash?
I think Lyft,
Lyft.
Yeah, and it's like doing a job like that or waitressing where it takes just like time, gives you all the creative energy to like do your thing, your craft, your business. And then you start to like go from 3 days a week to 2 to 1. And then I did the same thing where I'm like, take me off the schedule, but I'll pick up shifts. And then eventually I was like, I had
Just
worked-
invite me to the Christmas
I
party.
did do that. And
I know you
I
did.
was there and I won a gift. It was awesome. I won like a $100 speaker or a blender or something.
I am going to say it gave me, I've always had respect for anyone who works in customer service, but it gave me a whole new respect for service staff because I actually disagree. I had such a hard time like with waitressing. Like I could not memorize the menu. I like could not like communicate and punch stuff in the iPad at the same time. Like I was a mess. Like I did not do well and it is not for me. So like absolute props to anyone who does that because it was not for me. I'd forget to pick stuff up from the kitchen. Like I was the worst. I was very bad at my job.
I am dead. I literally was in the back. I mean, everyone has their own thing.
Yeah.
For me, I would be like asking the chef, I'm like, can I come help cook in the back? Or like someone would order charcuterie board and be like, can I make it?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, but that's funny. We had different experiences.
Yes,
Some of the same though, I know.
I was like, props to everybody, but this is not for me. So around the same time that in that 2-month window of like, how am I going to make this my full-time job and how am I going to make this work? Actually, Therese posted about being at the bodega at Breeze Stevens and how she was selling her little charcuterie cups
that was
there.
crap for me.
Which you did a really good job of making it sound like it wasn't because I
lost money.
Oh no.
I mean, we sold like 6 cups. I was just giving them away to people.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for saying that.
But I was like, oh my gosh, like I could sell my clothes in person. Like I wonder how that would work. And so as always, I discussed with John what he thought about this option. He's like, I think that's such a cool idea. So I ordered some clothing racks and I can't even remember if I bought a tent or if I rented it from them the first time. I have no idea. But like a table and things like that. And like asked to be part of the bodega. I think that was August. So we had moved up here end of June and that was August that I decided to do that. And it went super well, as in like at that time it went super well. Now probably I wouldn't have been like as impressed with how it went. But at that point it was like, that was huge. I was like so overwhelmed with how well it went. And I was like, wow, like I wonder if there are other things like this. So I signed up for the next bodega. That one went well. And then I just went into a rabbit hole. Like I was like, okay, full force into this. Like let's supplement the online sales with in-person sales. So I looked for any and every market I could find. So I signed up for a bunch of Christmas markets and I did those. And then the next year I just went full bore into like signing up for the Madison Night Market. I did the bodega again. I did any market I could find. And then I started reaching out to other small businesses to fill in with pop-ups too. So I reached out to wineries and some coffee shops and things that I thought would just be like a good fit with our niche, like where our customers would already be spending their time on the weekend and where we could maybe add value to what they were already doing. So we started doing those a lot. And that was like a really good push for us to, 1, test out what in-person shopping would look like with Thistle Elm, and 2, if I even liked that avenue of like revenue generation. So I loved it. So we, for the last 2.5 years, have been doing pop-ups like crazy. And I say we because, again, I told you he'd come up a lot. John is a huge help with all the pop-ups, or has been. I'm hoping to put him in more of a retirement now. But yeah, there were points like this last year that we were doing like 3 a weekend in different cities.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
And you would rent U-Hauls. Do you still rent U-Hauls though?
I haven't done a pop-up since we opened the store, but if I did a pop-up, I would rent the U-Haul just because we have such a system now with them. Like it's so easy to pack and we know exactly where everything is. Like people always are so like, when we're at markets or pop-ups, they're like, oh my gosh, you guys set up and take down so fast. And like, that's because like we do it the exact same way every single time. Like there is a method to our madness.
Baby.
So
I love
yeah.
it.
So yeah, those have kept us insanely busy. I started looking for storefronts like we talked about when we kind of looked all at that same space together. That was last spring.
Spring of 22?
Yeah. That was like
over a year.
Yeah. Like June-ish, right? Because I remember reading your 7-page letter the morning of my friend's wedding because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to help.
It was April. Because I was in Peru, and you're like, I think I found a place. And then when I came home, it was hit the ground running. April of 2020.
Okay.
Wait, before can we tell the fun story about how we all started looking for our storefronts together?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a fun story.
People
especially,
forget.
Yeah, I know. I do forget. I block it. But no, I mean, it's a good ending. We all ended up in better places.
Yeah.
Who wants to tell the story? You're the one that kind of started it,
Okay,
Shelby.
I'll start. So yeah, I feel like I kind of started the storefront journey. Like I knew I wanted one. I knew I needed one because the bakery that I was in, the kitchen I was in, it was not a bakery.
The closet?
It was like way too tight. Did not have room. So then I was like, okay, I want to start looking. You guys both expressed interest possibly.
Very, very watered down interest at that time.
But
I was like, eventually.
Yeah, I knew you would be ready. I started looking when I was already in
Busting.
need. Right.
Yeah.
So it was like, I feel like you need to look a little bit before you think you need to because it takes a while. So I started looking. I found a place with like multiple storefronts next to each other. And I was like, you guys, this is perfect.
You found a place with two. So you found a place with 3 open places all in one building.
There were actually 4.
Oh,
There were 4.
There
You're
were
right.
4.
Yeah.
But there were 3 that could possibly fit what we wanted space-wise and whatnot. So we all started looking and we were all like, this could be cool.
Yeah.
Where did it go wrong?
Well, it kind of
That could take the whole episode to talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
where it
I mean,
went wrong.
I feel like we really overcame the odds because Megan and I both expressed interest. And then I was 5th in line and you were 3rd.
I can't even
You were a couple
remember.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the woman that owned the building was like, well, I'm taking a first come, first serve basis. And our broker's like, the odds are not in your favor. I'm like, well, what if we like write a letter and schmooze her? And so I went home that night and I put together a 7-page something about like my business and why I wanted to be in this place and then why we all needed to be in this place and how like women in business, like are X% of the population in business and the first 5 years or the more, blah, 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 whatever. And then we schmoozed her. I gave her a charcuterie board. You gave her cookies. You gave her some Thistle Elm things.
Merch. I can't remember what exactly.
Yeah, at least a bag, a minimum a bag. I remember the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that night she texted us and she's like, yep, your girls got it. It's all them. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to get a space. And then very long story short, I can't remember why. I just remember that it wasn't going to work for you because the building was too old. And so then I dropped out and I don't really remember. Were you like, this is not it for me?
I think, yes. I think Toby, so that kind of like lit the fire of me looking for spaces because it had been like a thought, but not something I had actually like gone and done. So Toby started showing me some other places in that time and I kind of like.
You felt like they were better.
Yeah, I found some
better.
like.
This is better.
Yeah, some things that I thought were a better fit through that process. And I was like, I don't know that this is. And then it worked out because it didn't work out for you guys either.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to be
We
there
all
by
found our own
myself.
place.
Yeah.
Which
So I totally forgot about that though.
Oh, really?
To be honest, yeah.
I kind of do sometimes, but I'm like, wait, how did I end up here? I'm like, well, Shelby, you're the one that found the place, and then we all use the same broker.
Yes.
You're welcome, girls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you, Shelby.
So I looked at a few other spaces last summer, early fall. Found a couple different ones that I thought could be good fits, but things fell through, as you guys know. At least I know you had the same experience as me where like you thought you were like set on a place and it fell through. Like that happened to me a couple times too.
Heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. It literally is.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Because you picture it, you dream it, like you start planning for it and then it falls through. So the last one that I was looking at kind of fizzled out in the fall of 2022. And fall is our busiest season, fall into Christmas. And so I just I was heartbroken. And I also just was like, okay, I'm headed into my busy season. Like, I think I need to put the pause on this for now. Like, I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I can't like start this process over. Like, I need a minute. So I put the kibosh on the space search for fall and winter. And then to be honest, I feel like I just lost momentum because by the time the holidays were over, like I probably should have started looking again in January, but like the thought of going through that process all over again was a little overwhelming and a little not exciting. So I put it off. I started my spring and summer pop-up season full force and just kind of focused my energy there. And I'd look here and there, like see if anything was like popping up that I was interested in as far as spaces, but really casually. And then probably this summer, John and I were having a conversation about just like what life looked like for us moving forward. We kind of like John has really found his home. He loves his job so much. Like he sees this as his like forever career. We bought our home in March. So it felt like we were like putting roots down. So it's like, okay, what's happening with Thistle Elm? Like what is our plan long-term? Cause like this pop-up thing is working now, but like we're also in our late 20s. By the time we're 40, like I don't know if we're gonna have the energy or want to be in 3 different cities on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every single weekend. Like what's happening here is kind of the discussion we were having. And I was like, well, I really want the storefront. Like that's what I want. I'm having a hard time like curating my vision for the business in a 10 by 10 tent. Like that's hard. It's really hard to like get your brand across in a tent.
Oh, you did such a good job.
I tried my best, but like there was so much more I wanted to do, right? Like
neutral tent.
You're very like limited with space. You can't pick things that are going to break in transit. Like this wicker would have never like survived the transport like that. So I really wanted the storefront. I said, and again, there's John, like, okay, let's put the energy back into searching for that. So, and Toby reached out again, you know, Megan, what's going on?
I remember he would reach out and he'd be like, I need a break.
I literally
like, you really needed a break.
At one point I said, Toby,
I can't
we're
right now.
good, but like, it's not you. I just need a break. Like I truthfully, like, I don't want you to send me any more listings.
I remember that
for a little bit. And he was like, okay. But he reached out and asked how things were going. And John and I had that conversation. And then we were just downtown Madison one day and we walked by this really, really cool space on State Street. And I was like, that is the coolest retail space I've ever seen. It had hardwood floors. It had molding in the ceiling. The ceilings were super high. It's right on the first block. It's like white walls, white ceilings, wood floors, like all the vibes. I was like, that place is so cool. And John was like, well, you should have Toby show you. I'm like, this is not like, I wasn't even planning on being downtown Madison. So like the location isn't really right. Like the budget wasn't really right. I'm like, that seems like a waste of his time and my time. John's like, well, this is the most excited I've seen you about like a space since we were looking last year. So maybe it'll just light the fire again. I was like, okay. So I reached out to Toby and he's like, yeah, I'll show you. So we went and we looked. Once I got in it like needed a lot more like work than I wanted. And also, again, I didn't really want to be downtown anyway. So, but it really did kind of like stir that excitement in me. And Toby's like, do you have a minute? I have another space I want to show you, like if you're free this morning. And I was like, where is it? And he's like, it's over like on Old Sock. And I was like, okay. I was like, fine, I'll go look. And he's like, okay. So we drive over here and I take one step into this store and I'm like, where do I sign? I'm like, I loved this space from the minute I saw it. Like the vaulted ceilings, the wood floors, I told Toby, I'm like, I want character on the west side. Those are the two things like I had asked for when I was looking for a space. Cause I personally didn't want something brand new. I wanted something that had character and I wanted it to be over here because we live over here. And a big chunk of our customer base is over here too. So
Shelby's like, west side, best side.
Yes.
I was going to say that. Yes.
So yeah, I fell in love. And so we started the process like that day. So yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a whirlwind. I feel like that's just kind of the theme of entrepreneurship, though, at least in my experience, is like as someone who loves to have a plan and loves to like have all of the possibilities like laid out, like that's just not how it works. And so you kind of have to go for it.
Mm-hmm. When did you actually walk in the space for the first time versus like, I want to know how long that
I want to say that was probably either late June or early July. And then, so that process went all the way through August. It was like a very long process. At the end of August is when like we got the keys to the space and started the like build out process.
You turned it around really quick. It felt like.
I feel like, thank you. But I also feel like it's such a different experience than with you guys. Like you guys have kitchens, you have equipment, you have different things to consider where I have a little bit less of those considerations to make. I mean, I had to decide like how I wanted to use the wall space and like what fixtures I wanted and what the layout was, but I didn't have to decide like where my oven was going and would the hood work above it and all kinds of things like that. So,
well, I feel like that was just more so like listening to the other people that already knew. And it was just saying like, yes, because I didn't really decide that. They're like, well, if electrical's going to go here. I hated that. I hated having a blank slate and they're like, you can do whatever you want with this. I'm like, Perfect.
Yeah. You're like, I want someone to tell me what to do.
Honestly.
But truthfully, throughout the build out process, there were just so many, and Shelby's going to smile because I feel like I say this all the time, but I had so many like God moments throughout the process where which for me, a person who like worries and like really wants all the things laid out and it's not an option, like those were really like my guiding force, like that I knew things were right, like throughout the whole like process of obtaining the space. Like there were just moments where, I'd be questioning and wondering and something would happen that I just knew was there for a reason. And through the build out process, like the same thing would happen. Little things like, we got in here and the place didn't really need a whole coat of paint, but it needed some patches. And John was like, that's totally fine, but like the likelihood of finding a paint that's going to match is really low. So we may have to just paint the whole thing. Well, we get in here and there's a huge like gallon of, not more than a gallon, like I guess bucket of paint that is the exact paint that's on the walls that's downstairs that we can just use to touch up the spaces. Like there were just little blessings throughout the way that I was like, okay, I feel like this is meant for my path and I feel like we're on the right track. So that was really helpful throughout the process to like have those little moments where I was like, okay, I feel like we're headed in the right direction.
Now, Megan, CEO of Thistle Elm, you're 1 month into having this store. How's it going?
Things are going really well. The local community has been super welcoming. I've been really pleased to see lots of familiar faces of people that have shopped with us in markets before or at markets before or pop-ups, but also like a really great mix of new faces. There is a really great community here. They walk a lot. Like there's like lots of like people who walk together in the mornings and things like that, and they'll pop in and shop. I've had people that have come back multiple times and we've only been open 3 weeks. So like obviously they're liking what they're purchasing and picking up more things or adding, gifts for people. And that's just been really reassuring. So it's been really great.
What I'm actually really curious about though is now that you have the store, are you still doing online?
I am. Yes. I am in kind of a little transition period with that, as in I have previously released new items every Friday to my online audience. I'm hoping to get back into that. I just released a new collection for them last week because they've been so patient with me for the last probably month. I haven't put anything new online just because my whole energy's been going here. So I launched them a new collection last week. I'm hoping by, next spring we're back on a path where we can release new arrivals at least on a consistent basis, whether that's every Friday anymore or not, or if we do 2 large drops every month. I'm not sure what that'll look like moving forward, but yes, we still have online shopping available. I have a really great group of customers that don't live locally, so I would feel awful not serving them anymore.
So, okay, 1 month deep into here, I know you're a planner. Do you have a 5-year, 10-year goal with Thistle Elm?
So I feel like I'm a little bit different than some entrepreneurs in that I don't have this big like franchise plan. I don't have this big like lofty goal with Thistle Elm. I truly enjoy being an integral part of this business. So like my goal is not to like set up the store, hire people and back away. Like I truly enjoy being here. And so I would say my ultimate goal is just to create like this space as a staple in this community. And if I ever did anything else, it would be in Madison. Like we're a little local gem, and that's my plan for the store right now. Obviously, talk to me in 5 years, it could be completely different, but my vision for Thistle Elm right now is to be something that I can be involved with at a high level always. So yeah, that's the plan.
I love that. That's how I feel too. I could never just go away.
I love her. She's my baby.
I know.
Yeah. To this point, the only people who've been involved in the business are me and my husband, and often my mom and sister. They'll help me at events here and there, but I would love to hire people, one, to create jobs in the community. I think we all agree, like that's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur is like being able to create jobs, but also, just to have other people that can add new ideas to the store. And I could also just, use a little bit of time to work on like different things. So yeah.
And it is like, as much as I love being at Miggy's a lot, like when you're there for
Well, and it's just
Day
hard to
after
work on
day.
like business strategy, bookkeeping, like those kinds of things, and
When
also
you're, like,
be,
steaming
you know,
things.
yeah, exactly. So I could use
Or maybe
help.
you get a little bit and then someone walks in and you get
Yes.
distracted. Like when I work at the store, people come, where's the owner? And everyone, I'm like, just say I'm not here. But I usually work out front, so they see
Oh,
me.
man.
I like being out front. It's fun.
I am in my office with the door closed and I do not disturb.
Yeah.
I feel really bad. I'll hear people like come in and then I check the cameras. I'm like, I gotta keep. But I've been in a grind. This actually brings me to the next question, because I've been in a grind from a financial, like going through my books and like kind of fixing some accounting errors from my first accountant. So that's where I've been grinding on. And I'm wondering, from an accountant perspective, do you have advice for our small business owners?
Yeah, my advice is that if it's not your zone of genius or your area of expertise, to get help with it as soon as you can, because it's very complicated, as we all know. And if it's not something you're comfortable with or not something that you are an expert on, I would just recommend getting help sooner than later. There are lots of different options, from someone who's doing your books completely for you to somebody who will do a review of your books and help you, fix things at the end of the year. But I would just recommend getting a professional involved, just because it's so nuanced. There's a lot.
Why do
there.
they make it so hard?
Don't ask me.
I don't know. I hate
it.
Will you ever get help with your books, or like, would you even need help?
I feel like I at some point want to offload my like tax prep, because I don't like that. But I don't know if I could ever give up my books. Actually, genuinely, this is so nerdy.
You like
I
it.
love doing my books. Like,
You want to do someone else's?
No, I don't. But I love doing mine. Truthfully, if I've had like a day and I don't feel creative, I don't feel inspired, I'm going to treat myself.
Ew.
I'm going to spend the rest of the day in QuickBooks. Like, that's what I'm doing today.
I have to like schedule it on my
books.
calendar, like do an intense workout that morning, like get my mind right with like at a coffee shop. And then I'm like, set a timer, 45 minutes. I got this. And then I take a break and then I go back in. It's like by the end, I'm like, there's like smoke coming out of my, my office. Like the date is done.
No, I love her. Sometimes if I'm home alone and like John's gone, I'll put a movie on. I'll be doing my QuickBooks.
Maybe that's what I need to do. Put on a movie.
Yeah.
And
Be
like
alone,
enjoy it.
set the mood,
Oh,
light
yeah.
a candle.
Yeah. Get the vibe right. Get yourself a cute coffee, put on a movie.
I'm just good not doing mine. I'm just good. I don't need to touch them.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
Ugh.
That's where I am. I don't do mine. I mean, I look at them at the end of the month. I review them with my accountant.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that's all I need to know.
Yeah. Well, and that brings me to another point. Like, if you are having somebody do it, if you're hiring it out, like, try to familiarize yourself enough with at least like your income statement and your, balance sheet and your cash flow statement to know what is going on in your business. Because if you're completely hands off, you're handing off your books to someone else, like, it's probably easy to just like back away from that information, but it's so important to know what's going on in your business.
People ask me that all the time. They're like, oh, like you should really get involved. I'm like, well, I know what it is.
Yeah, as long as you
But I
understand like the statements that you're getting and you can make
You should
decisions
look
off
at
of it.
them,
Like, you need
but-
to know enough to be dangerous. Don't like refuse to learn like what,
Gosh.
the basics.
Oof. There's also free classes that you can take from the SBDC.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say they're the best tool, honestly.
Yeah,
They're
that was
awesome.
I just took a whole class, the same one Shelby just took.
I did mine online. She did hers in person.
Yeah. And it's been so good. Like I told
Yeah.
myself during that class, I was going to like stop like running away from it and pretending like it was okay. Cause like at first it was pretty simple and I could run my reports and be like, okay, I'm positive, I'm good, blah, blah. But then it got so complicated and it was like, I could never keep up with transactions or miles, or it got to be too much. But then during the month I was in the class, I'm like, I am going to like actually understand this. I have a meeting with my accountant for the first time in person ever, really, because all my accountants have always been like online. So I finally am going to get my crap.
I have kind of a funny story about that. So I did it online. She did it in person. I would recommend, if it's not something you enjoy doing, to do it in person. Because if you do it online,
You fell asleep.
I did fall asleep during
Yeah.
it. And so when I did it online, it was like, okay, you like watch them talk or whatever, like the teacher or whatever. And then it was like, okay, we also want you to like talk to other people in the class. So we're going to have like little breakout Zoom meetings. And so you would do little breakout rooms and it would auto put you in a room with like a couple people.
Yeah.
A room, like, have just
virtual
3
room,
people
yeah.
on the call. And so like I would turn my camera off because I was like laying in bed, like, 10 chins below me, watching the thing below me. And I like was like doing, one of these, like just kind of going
Your
off.
camera was on.
No, it was off.
Okay.
And so then I fell asleep. And then I woke up to like, hello, Shelby? Hello? 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 And I got put into a room with just one other person, but I fell asleep and I was like, oh my God, I have to just like fully pretend I can't be on this.
Your microphone's not working.
Well, I muted. I was off.
Well,
like,
no, but you could just be like, oh, sorry, my microphone.
and I
him.
just watched that poor woman keep asking where I was.
Oh no.
Yeah. It was fine. But yeah, I mean, I had a hard time focusing.
Yeah, that class was, it's a 4-hour class at a time. Like it was kind of intense.
It was a lot.
But
yeah,
it was nice to be in a class.
And
like
don't be
that.
afraid to ask your accountant questions. Like nobody expects you to know everything, even if you've been in business for a really long time. Like I feel like there's always something to learn and they're always changing things. So don't be afraid to ask them questions. That's what they're there for. And they won't laugh at you.
they might.
Oh yeah. No,
they won't.
I swallow my pride so hard with my accountants. I constantly am saying to them, please hold my hand. Please hold my hand. And I'm sending them like, emojis of like crying things. Cause I'm like, please help me like all the time. Just because I want them to like, know I really feel lost. But we're getting there, girls. We're getting there.
You got it.
So why are you passionate about what you do, Megan?
Well, obviously, like I said, I love clothing to begin with. So one, it's fun for me. So it's easy to be passionate about something that you just love doing. But also there's just so many little joys that come along, especially now that I have the space to watch people try things on. Watching people try something on that they just love and feel good in is just, you can watch it radiate all over their face. And that's just so fun. And even watching people pick out gifts for other people. And like there was a guy in here the other night picking out a gift for his wife, and like he stumbled across our word search books that have like quotes and scriptures that are just like motivating, and you could tell like his face lit up like he knew she was going to love it, and I helped him pick out something to go with it. Like just watching people experience those little joys and know that she's going to love it, he's going to love giving it to her. There's just lots of little moments that come throughout the day that just make it so fun and so worthwhile. So just knowing that you're making any little like positive impact on somebody's day is great. So,
And how do you stay motivated like through the harder days?
that's a good question. How I stay motivated is like planning for the future. So, like in January when there aren't as exciting things coming out, like you go from the excitement of like the Christmas collection and gifts and all of these, Christmas party outfits and all the things to January and February. I mean, once you hit Valentine's Day, there's things, but January, there's really not much like outfit planning to do. After the holidays, people are like cozied up in their sweats and like not always shopping for clothes. So then I just start planning for the future, right? I start looking at spring collections. I start thinking about summer. I start thinking about different events that we can do for the store. I try to get creative, get my creative juices flowing for time periods that are going to be busier, where I'm going to have less time to plan for those things. I also do the boring things, like I have to count inventory at year end and do all those reports. And that's the time to like clean and go through paperwork and shred things and all the things like that I don't, again, have time to do in September and October. Like those are the times to do the icky stuff. But I stay motivated by knowing that, this is cyclical. Like this is how it goes. But in general, just staying motivated on a day-to-day basis is easy because I love it. And two, I just lean on people that I know are going to motivate me. So like our small business friend group is so important. Maddie is huge for me, being in the same industry as me. I bounce stuff off of her all of the time. I'll text her and be like, this just happened. Is that normal? Like, what should I expect for this? I've never had this happen before. She's had a brick and mortar for a few years now, so she knows way more about me than in this space. So even throughout the build out, I was asking her all kinds of questions. And then, right back to it, John is really great at motivating me. He truly has a passion for Thistle Elm that people probably don't see, but he comes up with tons of ideas for the store that I end up executing that, you just wouldn't even think of it. Like
what's a John thing in here right now?
Well, these chairs are all John. He's like, you absolutely have to have a place for
the guys to sit.
Yeah, people who aren't shopping to sit or they will want to leave. Like you have to have those things.
If you could look back and see yourself before you started this whole entrepreneurship journey, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to care a lot less about what other people think. And at the same time, also, people aren't thinking about you that much to begin with. Like, it's really true. And it's hard to put yourself out there on social media it's really vulnerable. I don't know if other like small business owners talk about this, but I feel like when I'm presenting my business to people, it's literally putting myself out on a plate for people to respond to, right? So like when you get criticism or negative feedback, like it feels like you're criticizing me because this is my life. Like, I did this. There's no one else no one else made that decision. Like, I chose this. And so it can be like super vulnerable. And so I think that, that has held me back in some aspects. What are people going to think about this? Or will people like this? Or will people make fun of me for this or whatever? But it truly doesn't matter. And people really are spending more time thinking about their life and what they're doing than what you're doing with your life. And what I always say to everybody is the people who are going to say something are going to say something no matter what you do. So you might as well do what you want to do and what you think is best, because people who are going to talk no matter what. So you might as well be happy while you're doing it. So
that is a really good one. Someone I just talked to last week was like, hey, I really want to start my business, but I'm scared of like what our friends from high school or college might think of. And I'm like, well, you're the only one that has to wake up every day in your own body and like go do a job you don't like. So, but that really is, I mean, even for me, it was something that I thought about when I was starting. So
I did the same thing. I didn't want to tell anyone. Like, I didn't tell anyone about my Instagram. I just followed like my close friends and they were like, who is this? Like, you follow them, they follow you back. Like, what is this account? I was like, it's me.
Yeah. I literally told no one until like I had my first collection purchase. Like, not my family and not anyone. Like, I kept it a secret like as long as possible.
Yeah. Well, people will say also to like guard your ideas close, or the things that I don't know. There's two ways of looking at it, but like the things that make you happy, because like people always have like their thoughts and they don't see the same vision you see. So like you might put it out there and then get like shot down. I'm not saying I haven't done that either when I hear things that I'm like, oh, that's like I wouldn't have, done those things. But that's why like it is nice sometimes to hold it until it's done. And it's like, we can't go back now, guys.
Yeah.
You're either in this or you're not.
Megan, where can people find John? I'm kidding.
You can find John at Lodi Valley Dental in Lodi, Wisconsin. If you need any dental work, he's great.
We're both his patients.
10 out of 10 would recommend. 11 out of 10.
He'll take you to lunch if you give him a wink.
Oh my
He better not. I think that's
he
just
told
me.
If I go at lunch, like around a lunchtime, he'll take me to lunch next time.
He's going to love that.
I said, okay, I'll work on the schedule.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Okay, so John, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest at Thistle Elm.
Is that new?
No.
Get with the times.
I didn't realize you were on Pinterest.
Yep.
Okay.
At Thistle Elm, or you can find us here on the corner of High Point Road and Old Sauk Road in Madison, Wisconsin.
Beautiful. And what's the best way people can support you during this holiday season?
Why were you laughing?
Because I felt like almost like a commercial. What's the best way that someone can support you during this holiday season?
Honestly, any interaction with a small business means the world to us. So whether that's as simple as a like or a comment on a post, a share to your story, or telling a friend about us, or actually, purchasing from us, whatever that is, we just appreciate you and your interactions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. So blow up Thistle Elm in January. Come shop.
And now in December.
I was getting there. Everyone come shop at Thistle Elm now and forever.
Okay. You need a timeout. My name is Shelby. You can find me at Miggy's Bakes. Where can they find you?
And you can find me at Tricky Foods. And you can find the podcast
Screw it. Let's do this. On Instagram, Facebook, YouTube,
TikTok.
Pinterest. Not
Shelby,
Pinterest.
You can take that follow-up.
TikTok. Give us a review and leave a comment.
And shop at Miggy's Bakes and Tricky Foods as well for now and forever. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.